In the dim glow of progress, where the industry squints at its own future like an old man reading fine print, a brave soul has stepped forward and completed a UAD 3.6 report clutched in his weary hands. Today, I get to sit down with the first appraiser known to drag this new creature out of the theoretical realm and into the daylight. It is, in its own peculiar way, a historic moment. We intend to pry open his experience, hold it up to the light, and see whether this brave new world hums like a well-tuned violin or sputters like a lawnmower left out in the rain. Stick around.
Ivory is the first GSE-verified software vendor for the new UAD 3.6 standard. Built for appraisers, Ivory's AI platform automates photo classification, data entry, and form population, cutting report time by more than half while keeping you fully compliant with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's latest requirements. Stay compliant. Work faster. Visit ivory.com. That's AIVRE.com.
You're listening to the Appraisal Buzzcast with your host, Hal Humphreys.
Welcome back, everyone, to this episode of the Appraisal Buzzcast. My name is Jim Morrison, and I'm joined again by our host, Hal Humphreys. Let me bring him in. Hey, Hal.
Hi, Jim. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Well, we're really excited about today's episode, and we have a conversation with Adam Winstead, who burst into the news about a month ago when he completed the first appraisal using the new UAD 3.6. It's a really big change for appraisers everywhere, and Adam's experience is going to give us an early look on what other appraisers can expect in the future. Let me bring in Adam. Hey, Adam.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Man, it's going good. Adam, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. I know you've had a lot of people hitting you up for interviews since you're the first person ever to complete a 3.6 report that was delivered to the GSEs. Do me a quick favor and just introduce yourself to our audience and tell them how you got into this business and that kind of business.
Well, my name's Adam Winstead. I'm originally from Raleigh, North Carolina, and I started in the appraisal industry in high school. I actually worked for a guy as an office assistant, and this was back when we were receiving orders through fax machines, and I was hand delivering reports to the banks once I got my driver's license, a long, long time ago. So I first got my taste for it when I was young. I eventually got my trainee certificate when I was in college at the age of 21.
Oh, wow.
And I later got certified in 2007 at the age of 24. And it's after graduating college, and it's the only job I've ever had. It's been a lot of fun. I've seen a lot of homes. So.
It is a fun way to earn a living because, I mean, I've always said that it's kind of like it's a license to be a little bit of a voyeur. You get to see inside people's homes and the incredibly cool things they do and also the incredibly weird things they do inside their homes. So that's awesome. Most folks like me that came into the business with a father that was an appraiser or a mother that was an appraiser. We all started early, but you started without a parent in the business, and we're working in high school. So kudos to you. Let me ask you real quick before we get into the deep dive of the interview. The GSEs have put together a tip sheet for appraisers that helps them kind of get their head around things. Did you have any time to look over their tip sheet? Did you use that at all?
No, sir, not recently. If I saw it in class or in CE, I may have seen it then.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to be like fully transparent. I reached out to both of the GSEs to see if they had any extra questions that they'd like me to ask you. The reason for that is we want to get, as much useful information in front of appraisers as we can, not just rah, Adam did it, but some practical stuff. So the GSEs do have a tip sheet to help appraisers get through this process for the first time. UAD 3.6 represents a major shift from the traditional form-based appraisal that appraisers have used forever. Can you explain why this change is important and how you would describe the new structure to someone who has not seen it yet?
Well, I think the importance of it relies around how we are able to match the industry with what they've done as far as getting their processes and forms up to speed and up to date. So I think that's really why we are being asked to make the change is to try to keep up with the rest of the industry. I also feel that the GSEs are trying to just collect more data so they are more knowledgeable about the properties that they're assessing because they assess risk and at the end of the day that's what they're supposed to do on these properties and they're asking us to collect more data for them. And whether or not it helps us arrive at the final number, that's up to each appraiser and each report, but it's just adding to the scope of work is what it seems like to me.
Yeah. Now, one of the interesting things is, it's not unusual in my experience for an appraisal report on a single family residence to be, you know, upwards of 30 to 40 pages long. How long was what was the length of your final report on the first UAD 3.6?
I counted earlier in anticipation of this. It was right around 25 pages. It
Okay.
could have been much longer. The fields expand and you can make them go as far as you want. You can narrate as much as you want. You can add to them as you go. I tried to keep it clean and simple, straight to the point. You can add paragraphs or you could use a lot of C3s or Q2s or just whatever you want to do throughout the report to articulate what you're trying to put on paper.
Okay. Okay. Did you find the presentation of the report to be a little bit more readable?
It flows very well. As you're reading, you can kind of see what they're trying to accomplish as far as photos and then some types of descriptions or comments to quality or if there's a place for deferred maintenance, just
Yeah.
whatever. And so I think that does help for flow to some degree.
Okay. When you completed your first UAD 3.6 assignment, what stood out to you immediately? Were there noticeable changes in the way data is collected, organized, or reported?
I think the first two, collection and organized, that's collection is up to the appraiser, and then organization is how I guess you will apply it. And I think kept those simple and stuck to my best practices and my routine. How I place the data, I think, was the biggest challenge because you got to figure out where it goes. You got to answer each question. There's a lot there are many more questions. There's a lot more to do. The total length of the report was longer, but there's a lot more information in the report. It's more condensed. There's a lot more info. And for each page, it's there's just a lot more to offer.
Okay.
And that's where the length of the report can come into question. It's the legacy reports are 2 pages and some exhibits for the most part. And the new report there's quite a few pages before you get to your sales grid. So there's a lot more info to be entered.
Yeah, in the report itself, but would a lot of that data be stuff that you would end up putting into an appendix before?
In some places, and then some just gets tucked in the work file, and
Okay.
it's in the back of your mind for later.
Okay. Now, it's my understanding that you did this using your old best practices with a clipboard and a pen and paper and that kind of business. How did you record your field notes? And how much did you study to know what field notes to take?
For the most part, I just hand wrote some notes on the clipboard and I took as many photos as possible. I had an old appraiser tell me photos worth 1,000 words. So, I relied on those, as I do in most inspections.
Okay. Okay. The new standard includes more detailed and structured data fields, as you've already talked about a couple of times. Do you find that it improves clarity for you, or did it create new challenges during the reporting process?
I think there's opportunity for clarity because you can place what you're trying to report next to a photo, and the reader or the reviewer will obviously be able to see the results.
Yeah, okay, okay. There are a lot of appraisers out there that are really concerned about how their workflow is going to change given UAD 3.6. What parts of the process felt familiar to you and what parts felt entirely new?
Well, I kind of do agree with the workflow. I think there's going to be some challenges up front. The the second part of the question, I think the challenges are going to just be finding the software that people are comfortable with and being able to apply it in a timely manner. At the end of the day, it's still a lot of entry and fact reporting, and it's going to take some time.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a great segue into the next question, which is a lot of appraisers have been asking questions about the amount of time involved in this new process. Did the first assignment take longer, about the same amount of time, or less time once you understood the structure? How did you find the time commitment in this process?
It took much longer because of the learning curve of the software. But for obvious reasons, it's the next report I'll be able to cut that time down tremendously. However, there's no way that I feel I'll ever be able to fill out the reports as quickly as the old forms. They're just asking for much more information and
Yeah.
data facts, and that's okay. At the end of the day, the job needs to be done. And I heard someone say, if you can't fulfill the report, they're not going to have a need for you. So I want to keep this going. So it's, don't shy away from the work.
Yeah, you got to stay relevant, and this is what the GSEs are requiring. So you got to just kind of get stuck in and do the work. Let me ask you this, Adam. Do you think as you get more comfortable with this, and if you start to adopt a mobile workflow and do that work in the field, I have experienced more time on site, but a lot less time after the site visit. Do you think that will hold true?
Sure, absolutely. I plan on continue. I do some mobile workflow as far as sketch and photos, and I plan on doing that. I didn't want to learn a new software system on the fly, so I just stuck to old practices. I will do that in the future. There are going to be a lot of times where I don't think a homeowner is going to think it's practical for an appraiser to be there 2 or 3 hours to
Right.
go through each line item, each field, each page. As I said before, I think I had, or maybe I didn't say this, but I think I had 16 pages of data before you hit the sales grid.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, it's pretty intense data entry and filling.
Okay.
And I tried to keep it simple at the end of the day. I could have doubled it if I tried, or doubled the line items. I don't know how many more pages or fields it would have expanded to, but you can just keep narrating all you want.
Let me ask you this, comparing your first experience and knowing that you're going to get more efficient with it, how would you compare the time it took to complete this report to the time it would take to complete an old 2.6 report, stem to stern, from beginning to end?
Oh, gosh, I would love to do a few more reports before I could give you like a great answer or an accurate answer, just to get my speed, just to get up to speed with the keystrokes and see advances with the software. But I still think it'll take 2 to 3 times as long. They're
Okay.
just asking for that many more keystrokes and data points.
Okay. You know, you've gone through this process at least once now. 3.6 is becoming mandatory next year. What do you think appraisers should be focusing on in order to get ready?
I think coming up with a game plan as far as uh, figuring out the best way to approach software for you, whether it's your own software provider you're familiar with or somebody new. I think there's opportunities to test and train, ask for free demos, spend some time, and then get comfortable there. Um, Study Appendix F a little bit, take another CE class, just a reminder. My last course, was, beginning of this past year, so it
Yeah.
may not hurt to try again and then accept your order. I don't think it's smart to shy away from it. It's almost a really good opportunity to add something to your business and make more money at the end of the day and get paid for your efforts.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. That's a really good point. Some folks believe that UAD 3.6 is going to reduce the amount of free form writing and make appraisals more consistent. Other people feel like it's going to limit our professional judgment. Based on your experience, how do you respond to these?
I think there's, I don't know, I think there's opportunities to narrate as much and do as much free form as you would like. You can add exhibits, you can write 2 pages of a paragraph if you'd like. And the design of the reporting format is to accommodate those things. At the end of the day, though, it's up to the appraiser how they want to present the data and come up with their values. So I don't think staring at a new format or new software should be the largest obstacle, or it may just be the largest obstacle, but it shouldn't be a stopping point for anyone's career.
Sure, yeah, I agree with that 100%. Now, you used SFREP for this first appraisal report. Were you able to use their UAD compliance rules? And just talk to me about your experience with the GSE UAD compliance API and how that worked.
Yes, sir. At the end, at the report, you click a little tab button and it will red flag or kind of come up with a list of maybe just something that the GSEs are looking for. And it gives you small feedback. And then you're able to go make a little correction on your report, whether it's a checkbox or something's out of place, and then get it, corrected, then submit it.
Okay. Okay, good. So it's kind of like the red flags checks, the old what we called E&O check.
Correct. That's what it's called in other software programs. And they all have little different terminologies, but a lot of them function the same way as far as I was able to use the same sketching program that I'm accustomed to for the new software, and that works. They all work seamlessly.
Okay.
So it's stuff like that I think is going to be easy for folks. But I think what I also heard is going to be tough for some folks to stomach is comparable sale data banks that they've had for 2.6. I do not think they will talk into 3.6. They will not convert over to 3.6 reports. And so I think that will aggravate some people.
I have heard that objection, and I've thought about that quite a bit because we are used to a process and way we do things as appraisers. What I've come around to on that, and Adam, you tell me what your thoughts are. My sales database is incredibly important to me.
Sure.
But it also rotates on a 2 or 3 month basis. Anything that's older than that, I'm not using that often. Now there are times when I'm doing a report for somebody that's got, a city taking a piece of their land or something like that, and I'll have to go back and find older sales. But when I do that, I'm pulling that sales data and adding a bunch of commentary to it in a narrative report. I think as we get our sales worked into this new system, that problem's not going to be as big of an issue 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, certainly a year down the line. Does that sound right to you?
Yes, sir. I've had that sentiment as well. In years past, the same way my comp database changes all the time
Yeah.
and just constantly grows. I spoke with a good friend in a rural area. He uses the same sales all the time because often there's only a handful in that one county. So
Yeah.
it's important to some people. Just another point of what's important to some people. I live by the coast, and so that front porch measurement's important because of floodplains and water issues. And so some people it may not register to some people out in the inland or whatnot. So it makes sense for some people.
Yeah, and the front porch measurement, I've heard some people get really, really, really upset about that. I'm like, it's number one, it just doesn't take that much time to figure it out.
It
Number
takes
two,
5 seconds.
yeah, it's not that big a deal. If you're living in a coastal area, the new waterfront features data cluster is a really useful tool. If you're living in Nashville, Tennessee, not so much.
And you won't have to use it, that you can skip over it.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so the question I think everybody in the world wants to have an answer to is, all right, so I'm going to ask this in two parts. How did the fee for this project compared to your usual fee for similar assignments? And do you anticipate changing your fee going forward?
I have changed my fees immediately. I've more than doubled them, just based on the amount of work that's being asked. And the first report, I did not charge a higher fee. I would have done it for free if I was asked to. I
Yeah.
think it's a great opportunity. But moving forward, there's no way that I can spend time doing a 3.6 for a 2.6 report. They're no longer a form appraisal. To me, it's a condensed narrative and needs to be treated as such.
Yeah.
It reads like a narrative. You're putting in a lot of information. I've worked in a right-of-way office for NCDOT and had experience, a little bit of experience. I was only there for a year, but but it's obviously different. They're two different types of reports.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the things I like about 3.6 is, and I grew up in the commercial valuation space where we rarely, if ever, used a form in the
Mhm.
production of an appraisal. It was always a narrative format. I like the way this, at the end of the day, feels more like a narrative report, but there is still that drop down, you know, enumerated feel aspect to it where it has kind of that hybrid feel. And this is not a hybrid appraisal, people, but it has the feel of like we're completing a report, what we used to call a form, but there's a more narrative feel to it.
Yeah, I recognize a lot the use of Excel, is a big tool for the companies that are providing the software, or the software companies, excuse me.
Yeah.
And so there is a lot of drop down boxes and check boxes, and so a lot of that will be familiar for appraisers moving forward as they
Yeah.
do complete the 3.6 reports.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Last question. I know I've had you on here for quite some time, and I know you've been in the hot
No
seat a
problem.
number of times over the past couple of weeks.
Oh man, I got more coming, so no problem.
If you could give one piece of advice to every appraiser out there who's getting ready for UAD 3.6, what would it be?
I think it would just be important to contact the software providers, ask for the free demos, ask for some time to play with it on your own, and just kind of prepare yourself. And it's not that hard. It's really just committing, a couple days to the effort and not backing yourself to in a time crunch with your client. Make sure you're prepared just a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. And I also like, I mean, look, we're in the appraiser education business. I love the idea of like if you took the UAD 3.6 course 9 months ago, maybe take it again or we're working on some shorter versions that deal with like just an overview. You've already had the class, just an overview kind of business. Take the time to get yourself educated in getting ready for your first UAD 3.6 assignment. Adam, I can't thank you enough for being here. I need to take a break and hear from one of our sponsors, and we will be right back.
Don't believe the fiction that no one's liable for inaccurate information provided in a property data collection. Property data collectors must certify that the information provided factually represents the property characteristics. For hybrid appraisals, the appraiser isn't liable for property data collected, just like they wouldn't be liable for using typical third-party data as part of their assessment. The mortgage lender remains responsible for verifying the accuracy of the property description and completeness of the data. Get the facts, fanniemae.com/property data.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzz podcast. I'm Hal Humphreys, your host. I'm joined today by Adam Winstead, the first appraiser to complete the UAD 3.6 report that was delivered to the GSEs. Adam, thank you again so much for being here today. I appreciate your time. I know you're busy. Jim Morrison, our producer, likes to ask these anonymous appraiser questions sometimes. I think he does it primarily to trip me up and make me look like a fool in front of everybody. But Jim, do we have an anonymous appraiser question that Adam and I can try to tackle?
We do, but before I jump into that, I do want to say, because listening to Adam talk about this, I know off the record he talked about when he went up to that appraisal, he was ready for everything. I know some of the people on social media are saying, well, why do you use a clipboard? But he had his tablet there. He had his disto there. He was ready for anything. And I've got to commend him on that. He was ready to pivot. You know, Boy Scout, always be ready. It was really amazing that he took the time to do it that way.
Yeah. Nice work, Adam.
Thank you.
All right. So our question is a small rant and a genuine question for people here. What is the longest gap of time you've had between completing a report and getting a revision request? For me, my current record is 6 months, and you can guess I'm not happy about it. How long do I have to respond to an AMC for a completed appraisal?
Oh, man. Adam, any thoughts on that?
I think the longest I've had is maybe 6 months, but I think as far as getting it back to them, it's just wildly important to maintain a good relationship with that client. So just get it done, whether it's in between reports or, after dinner, just make sure you can make them happy so you can, get that next report from them that next morning.
Yeah, I think that's the key. Just we all get frustrated with revision requests. We all get frustrated with questions about our work. But it is part of the job. And if you want to keep your clients happy, just answer those questions. Look, I've gotten questions. I won't say revision requests, but I've gotten questions about reports up to a year later. Now I'll admit that I'm working in a very rural part of Tennessee. A lot of times these loans go through several layers of quality control and review throughout their process. But I get it, folks. I get really frustrated with revision requests, especially when it's absolutely clear that somebody at the client's office did not read the original report. I am hopeful. I'm absolutely hopeful that UAD 3.6 will stop a lot of those questions, because what we used to put in the addendum section is now in the report where it should be, with they're calling it data clusters, but with the data cluster where it's supposed to live. So I hope UAD 3.6 will cut down on some of those questions. Adam, any thoughts?
It's just all how it's interpreted on the back end of the report. And sometimes, it's a contract change or, something may have changed from my end, may have changed during construction, or the borrower got added. So often it's not tough to figure out.
Okay. Very good. Adam, again, thank you for your time. Jim Morrison, do we have anything else we need to cover in this podcast?
Just that we are taking our votes for Buzzy Awards. Adam was one of the nominees for Appraiser of the Year. We announced that in our last episode, so we're really excited. You have until the end of the year to vote. We'll put the link in the description for everyone to keep voting.
Yeah, and I got to say, the list of appraisers nominated for Appraiser of the Year is impressive. And I'm not going to sit here and pick a winner, but I'm here to say that for our listeners, take the time, go vote on Appraiser of the Year, consider them all with an open mind, because there's some really good choices, including Adam Winstead. Adam, thank you for sharing your experience and helping the industry understand what this transition is going to look like in real practice. It's important for appraisers to pay attention to these things. This is an important moment for appraisers, and your insight is extremely valuable. Thank you again.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you both.
And if we have nothing else for Jim Morrison and Adam Winstead, I'm Hal Humphreys, and that is your Appraisal Buzz for this week.